Welcome to Call to Be a Voice. My name is Carolyn Cofield. I was thinking the other day, so where was I when the church changed? The older saints used to sing this song, "What's the matter with Zion?" They were speaking of the church. Zion doesn't sing, preach, or pray like she used to. What used to outrage the church and even frustrate the church, now we have grown to tolerate and really learn to accept. Bottom line, to be a Christ follower doesn't make you better than, even though you are better off, but it surely should make you different than. See, we can't change the world looking, living, and acting like the world. We're called to affect the culture, not allow it to affect us. We can't be embracing the values of the world, participating in sin, condoning wrong, compromising our principles, caught in the trade winds of the times, a world gone off course, carried along by the current, overcome by the waves of a secular society. See, we live in a world full of broken lives, broken homes, blended families with parentless, problem-infested communities. Marriage and family needs to be reinforced and not redefined. What's most wrong with the world can't be solved by political, economical changes, but it's more about the greed and the pride and the rebellion and the lust in human hearts that needs to be repented of, transformed, forgiven, and changed. You can change and amend human laws, but you can't legislate love in the hearts of men and women. It's definitely a job for God. Our society's problems is not solely our government's problems. It's the church's problem. It's our problem. See, in the book of Revelation, you can find the synopsis of the end-time church in a nutshell. See, there was good works, there was lost love, they were stressed, they were depressed, spirit of compromise, there was moral decay, deception, toleration of the spirit of Jezebel, slackers. There were those that were weak, with not much strength and lukewarm. But also we find the diagnosis and the cure, and it's found in Joel 2 verses 12 through 14 that says, "Return to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and mourning. Rend your heart, not just your clothes. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, abounding in love. He relents from sending calamity. Who knows? He may turn and have pity and leave behind a blessing." A lifestyle of holiness is easier to study and to preach and talk about and read about, sing about, than to live it. See, we have no problem really preaching and teaching and singing and prophesying the Bible. We only have a problem living it. It's been said that we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. But God is patient. He's long-suffering, full of mercy. But we don't want to mistake God's grace for approval, His patience for permission, His meekness for weakness. Don't be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever you sow, you will reap, whether good or bad. See, deception breeds compromise, and compromise leads to disobedience, and disobedience leads to spiritual defeat. Okay, so every generation believes they are the worst and that they are the last. Well, if we are not the last, then there will be another. If we are not at the end, we are certainly at the edge of the end. We can't afford to live silly or to think stupid. There's a saying that says, "I would rather live my life as if there is no God and die to find out that there is, than to live my life as if there isn't a God and die to find out that there really is a God." A prodigal church in a prodigal world, as in the days of Noah. God saw the wickedness of man, great in the earth. Every imagination of his heart was only evil continually, only evil, without intermission. Today's sin is glamorized, is popularized, continually advertised and legalized. It is not your church or your expression of church. It is His. I've heard people say, "It doesn't take all of that. I just worship God in my own way." See, He doesn't want your way. He wants His way. Even though God's grace is greater than all of our sins put together, many have a distorted look at God's grace. Titus 2:11 and 12 says, "For the grace of God that brings salvation has appeared to all men, teaching us that, denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world." God's grace is a gift to all of us. See, it has the power to save us and keep us saved and to keep us from sinning. A revolution is defined as a sudden change in the system. I'm asking today, do you want a revolution? Culture changes are called revolutionists. We need a prayer revolution. The church needs to move from problem mode to prayer mode. It's not just about preaching people to their feet, but preaching people down to their knees. Prayer changes things. Real change will come through a righteous remnant, not better than, again, but different than. God is calling forth a courageous people. This is where you separate the men from the boys, the women from the girls, the warriors from the wimps. The opposite of courage is conformity to the norm, passivity, predictability, playing it safe, staying in the boat, at the foot of the mountain, going only so far and no further. Real church is without walls, outside and beyond the walls. When the church leaves the building, taking the gospel to the streets, God's children leaving their seats, their pews, because really a pew is described as an enclosed seat in a church. Another meaning for pew is distinct, to emit a strong offensive odor. I just thought you would like to know that information. Real Christ followers will tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Many Christian leaders, silent on many crucial social issues. Many believers are too busy with their lives to get involved with social issues until it becomes personal to them or to their families. Even then, many of them compromise, rationalize, and ignore scriptures that deal with these issues. See, we're in a battle bigger than ourselves, a battle bigger than our particular church and ministry and denomination. We need one another. The church needs to affect the culture rather than it be affected by it. As the church goes, so goes the country, so goes the city, so goes the community. The world is churchy and the church is worldly. God doesn't change. He's very set in his ways because he is the only way. Now, do you want a revolution? This is Sister C, praying that you may live life and that more abundantly.